Top wide receiver prospect Jordyn Tyson will not work out at the NFL Combine, and sadly, I have to admit defeat. The Titans will not be taking him at number 4 overall. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's show is live from the NFL Combine. Going to do this bonus episode about Jordyn Tyson and the news that he will not be participating at the NFL Combine. And I'll tell you why, sadly, I do have to admit defeat here. I don't think that the Tennessee Titans would take him at number 4. I don't think that's going to be a realistic option going forward. Now, before I dive into that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. We have roster moves coming up shortly. Free agency right around the corner, the draft right after that. Make sure that you stay locked in to the Locked On Titans podcast. But again, here live at the Combine, so if the audio is a little different than you're used to, I'm a little quieter than you're used to, well, you know why. And for those out there always saying, Tyler, why are you always screaming? Well, today is the episode for you. But with that being said, again, we got the news on Monday night from Dane Brugler from The Athletic that Jordyn Tyson, my number one wide receiver, or was my number one wide receiver in the NFL draft, will not be participating in workouts at the NFL Combine. And quite frankly, I have to admit at this point that I think it's unrealistic that the Tennessee Titans would take him at number 4 considering the injury concerns. Already, there was injury concerns with Jordyn Tyson, the ACL in 2022, had the collarbone at the end of 2024, the hamstring that limited him through 2025. Those were already things that a lot of you guys pointed to and said, hey, that's a lot of injuries. That's a pattern of injuries. He's an injury-prone guy. You can't take that kind of risk at number 4. And quite honestly, I fought against that. And I, quite frankly, coped and said, he came back and played well from the ACL after that happened, so I wasn't concerned. A collarbone is a freak injury. You can't really relate that to the leg injuries. All good wide receivers end up with a hamstring at some point or another. Can't really hold that against him, and it was in the opposite leg of the ACL. And quite honestly, all of that can be true, but what I had heard from people close to the Arizona State program is that Jordyn Tyson might have been able to come back and play if their team wasn't completely injured and they were kind of out of it at the end of the season. And I kind of stuck to that. I was like, all right, that makes a lot of sense to me, protecting his body going into the NFL. But the fact that we are here in late February and Jordyn Tyson is still not healthy enough to participate in the Combine, when you have guys like Makai who are going to participate, and Carnell Tate who are going to participate, guys who are in that same class with him, it's hard for me to continue to defend that. The idea that the hamstring injury wasn't as bad as it seemed, and that, he was just sitting out because the situation with the team, you can't really hold on to that at this point if it's still late February and he's not healthy enough to participate. And look, maybe he comes out, he participates at his pro day in March, he looks fantastic, dispels the rumors, maybe the medical stuff checks out and teams aren't that worried about it. There are a lot of avenues where I could wiggle back into Jordyn Tyson being an option at number 4 for the Titans. But the reality is I don't think that can be a reality, especially when you have a general manager like Mike Borgonzi for the Titans, who has kind of proven that he wants to stay away from guys who are injury prone. And, we look at the durability factor of the guys that he signed in free agency last year. We look at the draft class outside of Kevin Winston, who, we could argue is a first round talent that fell because he was coming off an ACL tear. But outside of that, Mike Borgonzi has basically targeted all guys with durability and guys who don't miss games. So I have a hard time looking at you guys and saying that Tyson is a real option for the Titans at number 4. Now, if there were a trade down, which lessens the risk, then maybe the Titans would consider that. But honestly, this is a bad sign. This is a bad mark on Jordyn Tyson's profile. We've already seen a lot of the draft, quote unquote, gurus, like a Daniel Jeremiah, start to drop him down the board because of those injury concerns. And listen, just purely when they're healthy, I still do think Jordyn Tyson is the best wide receiver. His route running ability, his ability to make spectacular catches down the field. He's not a yards after catch demon per se, but I think he's got more chops there than a guy like Carnell Tate. I still do think that when healthy, Jordyn Tyson is the best wide receiver, but with the hamstring still being a factor at this point, it's just hard for me to, again, tell you that he's going to be a real choice for the Titans at number 4. And I think, if we're being honest, this bumps up opportunities for the Titans to take a Carnell Tate, for the Titans to take a Makai Lemon, for the Titans to potentially take a Jeremiah Love. I know that a lot of you guys are very against that, but at the end of the day, with Tyson's injury concerns, and if it's not figured out, if he doesn't have a good showing at the pro day or doesn't work out at the pro day because he's still rehabbing the hamstring, that would completely eliminate him as an option. No matter how hard it is for me to admit and to say that. But with that being said, again, Jordyn Tyson wasn't the number 1 player on my board for the Titans at number 4. I still have other preferences, especially at the edge rusher position, but I'll do a little bit of an update of my rankings of options at number 4 right now. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people try to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold nights, packed schedules, doing a million podcasts a day, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference, and that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated number 1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Their meals come ready to fit your schedule. You got 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, quick lunches. It saves time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on their groceries for a limited time. Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. You use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in now. Not only can your pick cash, but it can also send you to the NBA Finals. And if you guys follow ball, then you know that coming out of the break is the best time of the NBA season. So make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Titans fans, let's continue today's bonus edition of Locked On Titans here live from the NFL Combine. Again, getting ready for Robert Saleh's 1 p.m. Eastern press conference. Got a few questions that I want to ask him. Can't wait to ask about some young guys who are currently on the defense, like Femi Oladejo, Tavondre Sweat, Kevin Winston, all that. But again, we are talking about the news that Jordyn Tyson is still rehabbing his hamstring injury. He is not going to be participating at the NFL Combine. That does drop him down the rankings for the Titans' first round pick quite a bit. Again, updating my rankings, as I've said all along, Arvell Reese is my number 1 player in the NFL draft. I know that there are questions about what position he'll play. I don't care what position he plays. He plays defense. He is a football player. I think that in Robert Saleh's defense, if there was ever a coach that I would feel confident that could figure out a role for Arvell Reese to extract the proper value that he can provide, it is a guy like Robert Saleh. You can use him as a stand-up linebacker next to Cedric Gray on early downs, kick him down on the edge on passing downs. You can have him mug the A-gaps and run those twists and stunts that Robert Saleh likes to do with his wide defensive fronts. I think it makes a ton of sense. Arvell Reese is my number 1 player. I think you just take a chance on that kind of talent. You take a chance on that kind of athletic ability, and he is a physical player, man. We're talking about a guy who destroys tight ends at the college level, has rocked some offensive tackles at the college level as well. I think he's a great guy at destructing blocks, which is absolutely critical at the NFL level. He can win with his speed and athleticism, but if he does get in a place where he's got to stack and shed, he's going to be able to do that. So very high on Arvell Reese. That's my number 1 player in the entire draft and who I would prefer the most for the Titans at number 4. But again, after that, I go with Rueben Bain. I know a lot of you guys love Rueben Bain. I love Rueben Bain as well. The arm length concerns, obviously a thing, but in this draft class, I just don't see a lot of top end talent that we would normally see at the top of the first round. So I'm less concerned about Arvell Reese being a tweener or David Bailey not being good against the run or Ruben Bain having short arms. Like, this is not a great top end of the first round. So I'm more willing to, you got to take somebody, you know what I mean? And I think maybe some of these guys might not be elite players, which I think Arvell Reese has the chance to be an elite player in the NFL. That's why he's my number one player. But I don't think that Ruben Bain is going to be an elite player at the NFL level. I think he's going to be a very good player, which is perfectly fine considering there aren't a lot of elite prospects, in my opinion, in this draft. So I would have Reese and then I would have Bain. Bain can play that, strong side defensive end, slide inside and rush from the interior with Jeffrey Simmons. It makes a ton of sense. Obviously, Cam Ward wants Ruben Bain as his former college teammate. Jeffrey Simmons advocated for Ruben Bain on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. I think he's a culture guy too. And remember, the Titans are very early in their life cycle as a team. And I think culture still very, very important. So Ruben Bain absolutely would have been above Jordyn Tyson no matter what. I had Reese and Bain above Tyson as options all along, and I continue to have that. I would say that I would put David Bailey ahead of Jordyn Tyson now because of the injury concerns. I'm not as high on David Bailey as consensus is. I'm a little worried about the thin, low half. Is he going to be able to set the edge when the run comes at him? Yeah, he's good at chasing down things on the backside. He's got great speed, great get-off, explosive, good with his hands. I'm worried about the ankle flexion. Is he going to be able to win with speed as consistently at the NFL level? I don't see the dip and the bend that you would typically want from a prototype alpha edge rusher at the NFL level. But, I got to bump David Bailey up now above Jordyn Tyson based on these injury concerns. Again, I just got to be realistic with you. And then I haven't been as high on Carnell Tate, even as a Buckeye, as I tell you guys all the time. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan, born, bred, raised in Ohio. But Tate just isn't that great of an intermediate or short route runner, doesn't give you any yards after catch ability, slight frame, as well as he's going to be able to win contested catches as often when he doesn't have Jeremiah Smith on one side. I don't think he can be a true number one wide receiver. To me, I think he compares a lot to a guy like Alec Pierce for the Indianapolis Colts, who is a good player, but I don't really see him as a true number one wide receiver in the NFL. But at this point, if I'm being honest with you, again, I think the Titans would take Tate before they would take Tyson. And I just have to admit that, quite frankly. A guy like Makai Lemon as well, who has his own athletic concern, speed, quickness, size, all of that, but just a very productive player. I think that I would much rather have the edge rushers over the wide receivers at this point with Tyson's injury concerns. If I'm taking an offensive player at number 4, I know it sounds crazy and sacrilegious, but Jeremiah Love is going to be a way better player in the NFL than Carnell Tate or Makai Lemon, in my opinion. And it may be running back. It may not be a premium position, but at the end of the day, Jeremiah Love is a playmaker. Look at the way that he runs routes when he's split out in the slot. Jeremiah Love would be a better route runner than anybody on the Titans right now other than Calvin Ridley. And is Calvin Ridley even going to be on the Titans? Like Chim DK, Alec Iominor, they're not good route runners. So I think Jeremiah Love's ability to help not only in the run game but in the pass game does qualify him as getting a playmaker for Cam Ward. And let's be real. We're the Tennessee Titans. Having a quarterback and a running back together, Steve McNair, Eddie George, like maybe it's just destiny. You know what I mean? But again, I do lean the edge rushers. That would be the path that I would go. I'm not as interested in a guy like Caleb Downs or a guy like Sonny Styles. I don't think they're generational prospects. They're good prospects, but at non-premium positions, I don't see them the same way that I do Jeremiah Love and what he can help with on the offensive side of the ball. So again, I'm here to admit defeat on Jordyn Tyson. You guys have been screaming at me for months that he's too injury prone. And with this news that he's not going to work out at the combine, his hamstring injury, still not something that's behind him. He's still working through it. I have to admit that defeat. Give you guys the W on that one. But with that being said, time to head over, ask some questions to Robert Saleh, get his feedback on some things that I have on my mind, and I'll be back with you guys later on tonight to report what I hear. So thanks for tuning in. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was a bonus edition of Locked On Titans, live from the NFL Combine.